Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, on Monday night, the first night of the RNC, Donald Trump announced who his running mate was supposed to be. And there were many top contenders, and finally it was narrowed down to and was officially announced on Truth Social that it was going to be Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. So, a bit about Vance. He's a first term senator. He's only been in the Senate since January of 2023 after winning his midterm election in November of 2022, which is a shorter time span of being in the Senate than even Barack Obama when he was elected to president in 2008, which was remarkable. And this is even more remarkable that he's done this in such a short amount of time in politics, having served no other roles, not like local politics or anything else, jumping straight into the Senate with many very powerful and large donors like Peter Thiel supporting his Senate bid. But before that, he was a venture capitalist. He went to Yale Law School, and he's most notably known for writing his best-selling movie that turned into a movie and memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which detailed his life living in Ohio, having a very tough upbringing. And something also to note is that he's only 39 years old. So overall, who was he going to pick for president? Why did he ultimately choose J.D. Vance? So this obviously is all outdated because we all know now who he is going to pick, but the leading three candidates were J.D. Vance, Doug Burgum, and Marco Rubio. Other long shots here, some of them I honestly don't understand why they're even on this list, like Ben Carson or Bill Hagerty. Like, I don't think that Trump is going to choose them in any way, shape, or form. But one person I don't see on this list that I was considering heavily was Glenn Youngkin, who is the governor, the Republican governor of Virginia that has voted Democrat since 2008. So he would have been a great pick, in my opinion, if he wanted to try to win even more states like Virginia. That wasn't supposed to be on the table even for him during this election cycle, but because President Biden is doing so horribly, he could have possibly won that if he had chosen Glenn Youngkin, or even Tim Scott, who is obviously black, and so he would appeal better to the black base and maybe widen up the gap that Trump is currently even leading in. He won around 8% of the black vote, I think, in 2020, which is pretty normal for Republicans, but especially horrible for him. And then he went up to 21% right now in polling. So Tim Scott could have even jumped that, went up higher, right? But obviously it went up to these three. Doug Burgum is very similar to Mike Pence. He's very just subservient, I guess you could say. He doesn't have a personality. He's not particularly memorable. He's not interesting. We saw in the presidential primary debates on the Republican front, he ran against Trump, soon after dropped out because he was barely polling in the single digits. But I guess pros for him would be that he's very successful in the business realm. So if Trump wanted to go and kind of ease the worries of big business people about his policies around the economy and whatnot, picking Doug Burgum would be a great bet. Also, if he just wants to take all the spotlight and everything for himself, Doug Burgum certainly not take away any of the spotlight. Marco Rubio, he's Latino. He would appeal more to that base. He's from Florida, and Florida voters, as I've said many times, are very different, or Florida Latinos are very different from Latinos in other parts of the country, just based on like immigration patterns and whatnot. But he would still certainly try and, be better for that base, getting that base over to Trump than would be the other candidates, obviously. He's also a very more fine-tuned Republican. He ran against Trump in 2016. He had some tiffs with him then, but overall I feel like he didn't give what Trump wanted out of a VP pick. He's very cut and dry Republican, and he just goes over more into the traditional route more than the Trumpian MAGA route. And then J.D. Vance is the most to Trump's liking, which is ultimately why he picked him. And I very much agree with Trump's decision. I mean, Glenn Youngkin, again, I probably would have chosen that, but out of these three, I think that J.D. Vance probably is the best pick, and is a very confident pick on Trump's end because he is the most MAGA-like in all of these candidates. And some people were saying that, he's called Trump Hitler in the past and called himself like anti-Trump, a never-Trumper in 2016, but since then, he's trying to get back Trump's redemption. Obviously has. Now he's President Trump's number two. He's the one that will take over if anything, God forbid, happens to Trump. So obviously he's putting a lot of trust in him. And I think that Trump really likes that redemption arc, that once they said something horrible about him and now they're trying to seek his approval and get back on his good side. He really likes that front. And then J.D. Vance is also, again, from Appalachia. He appeals to those voters in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, who he wants to win. Ohio obviously being a safe state for him, but the rest of the three being battleground states that he's currently leading in, but that J.D. Vance will only further help push towards Trump to getting those electoral votes that will most certainly, just with those three states alone, and then the rest of the states that he's guaranteed to win, he will win the election. So those are easily, like, very valid reasons for him picking J.D. Vance. He's also the most MAGA-like I said earlier. I feel like if Doug Burgum, he probably wouldn't even be able to carry on the torch, even after Trump leaves office. He wouldn't be a memorable number two pick, in my opinion, even less so than Joe Biden was during Obama's presidency. I feel like he would have a very tough time running against these bigger, more interesting and politician-like personalities like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer. Marco Rubio, very fine-tuned, and he wouldn't carry on the MAGA personality and persona and Trumpism that Trump has been, harvesting for these past 8 years or so. So he wouldn't do it. But then JD Vance is going to do that. JD Vance is very far right on many of the issues. He's even more far right than Trump on abortion. And that's something that's been pretty much completely wiped out of the RNC platform at this point because they know it's a losing issue for them. And so I guess they'll have to reconcile those differences themselves in office, but that's not going to be their priority. Their priority at this point is going to be immigration, the economy, locking down the border, things like that, that their party, their base, voters across America, very, very concerned about. So yeah, I think this was a pretty good pick on Trump's end because he gets what he wants across. And I think the assassination attempt kind of shifted Trump's opinions a bit as well because he realized that I don't want to appeal to other voter bases. I don't want the business people. I don't want more Latinos. I just want to harbor down my base. I'm so confident in what I'm currently doing. I'm so confident in the polling numbers at this point that I just want another copy of me, someone much younger. And also note that, the rest of these, I think Burgum and Marco Rubio are both in their 60s and 50s, and JD Vance has not even touched 40 yet. So he'll have a long career in politics if he chooses to, and a very successful one at that because he's a great speaker. Something else to note, his speech given last night was an amazing, incredible one. I think no matter where you stand on the aisle, you can realize that that was a very well written speech, very good delivery as well. Some people are criticizing the delivery, and yes, it could have been more authentic feeling, but it was overall very good. And the personal anecdotes that he gave about his family would really stick with people. So long career in politics, he will pass on the torch. He gets those voters in those key states that Trump wants to win. He probably will win them at this point with polling. He's already leading in like 2-3 points, as many polls show in those states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And then JD Vance will only help him win those states, coming from that type of background of Appalachia, and will carry on the MAGA, Trumpism, Republican, side of things long after Trump is gone. So I think this was a very good pick on Trump's end and a very confident one at that. So thank you, and let me know what you think about this pick and if you would have picked someone else or if you disagree with anything I said. Thanks.